Recorded at the Kitchen Studios. This is the Pencil Pushers Podcast.
What is happening, leadheads? I am your humble host of the Pencil Pusher Podcast, Mike Rosado. We are, of course, your one-stop shop for the love of the hand-drawn arts. And you know what? You picked the perfect episode to chime in because today we chat with my buddy Jordan Jameson. But trust me, this is not just me playing nice with friends. Jordan is a super talented graphic designer and illustrator who effortlessly combines his savvy brand agency expertise with mad illustration skills. Learn how he infuses the two to not only win gigs with the likes of Boulevard Brewing and Southern Comfort, but also the hearts of a growing and dedicated Instagram following. So, sit back and enjoy our talk with Jordan Jameson. All right, Jordan, welcome, man. It is great to have you on the podcast. How are you doing, sir?
Doing excellent. Good to be here.
Awesome, man. You're in Alabama, right?
Yeah, I'm based out of Mobile, Alabama. I'm not from here originally. Been down here about, 5.5 years, something like that.
Yeah, okay.
But originally Michigan.
Nice.
By way of Las Vegas. So I've been kind of around. So
just traveling the country, man. Just having a good time.
Yeah, I need to discover each territory.
That's right. So let's start it off with, I always like to learn a little bit more about where the artists kind of grew up and where they got started, man. You just said you were originally from Michigan. What parts and how'd you get into art?
Well, I'm the Metro Detroit area. So it's a big sprawl, the Metro Detroit area. So I just kind of grew up around that area. As far as how I got into art, I kind of always drew. My grandfather would always draw with me when I was real little. Mm-hmm. And he was a good artist in his own right. Like professional or just kind of on the side? No, he was never a professional artist. It was just something that he enjoyed doing. Yeah. Kind of pencil drawings and stuff like that. But they're really good. And I just remember being kind of enamored by it as a kid. Just he would teach me how to draw faces and stuff like that.
Yeah. And is this is 5 years of age or older than that?
Probably younger, probably 3 to 5, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, he kind of got me interested in that, and I just kind of always drew. But I never really knew I could do it as a job or anything like that. Cause as I'm sure it's the stigma of the artist and, no one ever explained you can be a graphic designer and still do this stuff, Yeah. I didn't realize it until way later. From there, I was always into skateboarding and snowboarding. Those are super graphic heavy things. And I would always gravitate towards certain logos. And, if I was to get a new skateboard, it would have to be
it's got to be something with some killer art on it.
Fancied. Yeah, for sure. So those are the grassroots exposure, I guess.
Yeah. Well, were you drawing a bunch at that point though? Or was it just more of just a cultural thing, pop culture type thing, and you were just kind of digging it?
I was drawing nothing fine tuned or whatever. It was just find a sheet of paper and just scribble on it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always drawn, I've always took art classes in school, and it's just something that's always kind of been a part of what I like to do and who I am, really.
Yeah. So. In high school, were you pretty passionate about it to the point where you were, taking more of advanced classes, or was it still pretty much just on the, kind of sidelines as something that's cool and I'll take an art class here and there?
I never took advanced classes, just really what was available. They never really had the advanced classes. Mm-hmm. I would take drafting classes because people would always say I don't know, you got to get a real job, kind of art school and stuff. So I was okay. So basically took one was an architectural drafting class where you draw house elevations and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was in 10th grade or something like that. And then beyond that, when we got into...
Did you find that interesting at all?
I did. And for a while I was I might want to be an architect, but I am horrible at math. So I kind of scratched that. You know, I was just like,
Yeah, very much like me.
Yeah, you can only get so creative with that. I mean, I'm sure you can get super creative, but like, it wasn't the kind of creative I was like drawn to, I guess, initially.
Yeah.
But I thought it was something that I could like move into. And then, you know, even after that, I took like CAD classes where I would mess around in CAD and draw like little automotive parts and stuff. It was like this, I forget what they called it, but in like our senior year, we were able to like take these like basically college courses of like certain specialized fields.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I did a CAD class that kind of got me introduced to like designing things on a computer.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so obviously you're a graphic designer along with being an illustrator. So you had, I'm sure you pulled some of that component into what later became your design industry or design career, as it were.
Yeah, certainly. It's always fueled that side for sure. More and more, like I kind of find like the illustrator side melting into the technical side or, you know, designery side.
Yeah. How is that? Tell me more about that.
More so like when I'm designing now, like, you know, whether it be like a logo or something, like going more like just hand drawn stuff or, you know, I'll mix them too. Like I'll design something on the computer. And I feel like I want like a more of a hand drawn look. I'll bring it into my iPad and kind of draw over it. And like, you know, when I do that, it kind of allows me to, you know, find different solutions or things that are more interesting or, you know, more organic and I don't know, something like that, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting how that really comes into play. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated with being an illustrator and also love talking with illustrators who also are into graphic design because there is, oh, what's up, Pooch?
Yeah, also never barks either
unless you're recording something important. But yeah, it is interesting to talk to illustrators who are also graphic designers because there's this inherent need to, kind of draw outside the lines. There's something unique and special about being able to draw your thoughts. Luckily, technology, I'm sure you feel this way too, especially with the advent of like, you know, Surface Pro or iPad Pro and Procreate and all those things, Cintiqs. Yeah. Where technology is meeting the demands of people who need to be able to ideate and also now be able to flesh out designs that are, you know, largely used for branding now, which is kind of a game. It's a game changer, you know?
Yeah, I think it's been a huge game changer. Just, I think mostly the speed of it. Because I've been, you know, I think a lot of people do the same thing, just not at the speed that the iPad lets you do it, you know? I mean, the simple ability to like undo and redo on a hand-drawn type of atmosphere, it's like crazy. Procreate's insane. Like
it really is. And we'll get into that more later, but just a quick story on that. I mean, I told you, I think we were messaging on Instagram and I was telling you I was working on an art show and you know, it's interesting how working digitally retrains your brain. So I find myself working through something on an acrylic piece, you know, on canvas, and I immediately think where I make a mistake, my immediate thought is Command Z, you know, or I could just hit the back button to go back a couple of notches. So it's the harsh reality of realizing that I cannot do that. I literally have to do this a little bit more archaically. Yeah. So, but it's just kind of fun that way.
I struggle with that too. I will literally be drawing on a piece of paper, and if I mess up, I'll double tap it with my two fingers, which is the undo for Procreate. And I'm like, oh my God, like did I just do that for real?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that's just checked me and been like, you know, okay, I got to start drawing more on paper now. Right. I've been like too in my iPad lately.
Yeah, so I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I'm curious, and we've only got an hour. I've got tons to ask you, but just on that note, man, I mean, how did you So I know that you got a degree in graphic design, and at that point, were you incorporating drawing into your work, or was it definitely more on a technical, angle?
Yeah, I definitely brought in a lot of my drawing into that. Like, I think that was like some of the differentiators of like from my peers and my classmates. Only a handful of them really drew. Like, we had like some that like to draw like graffiti, or some that like to draw like anime or something. Like, I don't know, I guess different types of like illustrators or draw, or but there was only a few of us anyways that really like would draw. And I found that a lot of those types excelled where I was, just because they brought something different, or maybe they thought differently because of that. But yeah, it's always been sort of a part of my style, even like technical stuff. So
yeah, when we have interns who are going to school for graphic design, I'm always trying to encourage the ideation process through drawing, even if they don't have any drawing or very little drawing skills, because it does expand your. It's kind of like a guitar player who decides to compose a little bit by playing on the drums. You do bring your that person's drumming coming from a guitarist mindset will inform a different way in which the drums are played that can actually open up kind of a new idea, really. And it's kind of the same thing for people who get into graphic design, who are largely used to building layouts and working with text and working with photographs. If they can get in there and first ideate on paper, and if they're not used to doing that, then their perspective actually will change. And a lot of times you'll find yourself kind of coming into new ideas that they wouldn't have come through before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think one of the cruxes potentially is that they feel that, I think a lot of graphic designers who don't have a kind of a traditional art background, is they have a tendency of thinking that their pieces have to be more final, whereas somebody like you, for example, can open up a piece of paper, get an 11 by 17 and just start sketching. So it automatically fills you, or not fills you up, but opens you up to just kind of freehand drawing and letting ideas kind of get roughed out. And so more ideas can kind of come into play as a result. So, I mean, I definitely encourage people to draw a lot more, even if you're strictly just a graphic designer, just to get the ideas out there.
Yeah, I think the exact same thing. Like, even if you do like UI, UX or something, like sketching out layouts and content, like, it's just a quick way to like kind of get your brain moving. And, I've met people who kind of sort of like sketch like in Illustrator or Sketch, making layouts quickly or whatever. But I think, everyone should draw, even if it's not pretty or whatever, even if it's like logo design, you can get like, you can come up with stuff or like, little tricks and logos that you wouldn't even think about otherwise, really, I think, because it kind of makes your brain think in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Milton Glaser, the iconic graphic designer. One of his most famous quotes is, "Drawing is thinking."
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. That's exactly what it is to me anyways, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why you are doing such fantastic, prolific work too, Jordan. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, your drawing skills are definitely a key part of why your stuff is so great, man, and why people love to see your work. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, so you graduate with a graphic design degree, and what was kind of your next move? Did you immediately get into, into the corporate world, or did you? What? A matter of fact, how about this as a first question? When you graduated, was your kind of next move intentionally going, I want to get a corporate gig? And not to say that it's not really that like you're at a corporate gig now, but more of a stable, steady agency job, or were you leaning more towards maybe I could just do this freelance, or what was your thought process there?
Initially I was all for the agency because I was like happy with what I was doing out of school, but I knew that I would see like other people who work at agencies or like had been doing it for a while who used to work at agencies, and their level was like, a couple notches up. And to me, I wanted to obviously be at a certain level. And I knew like working at an agency, getting that like I guess, how they operate and just like being in the environment with all the other designers and artists, like I wanted to kind of step my game up that way and see if I could like do that, if I could just, excel in, what I thought at the time was, the top part of like, where designers go, I guess. So out of school, I was like, okay, I gotta do this and I gotta like excel at it. So that was always like my goal, like as a young designer.
Yeah. Well, who were you looking at that point that made you go, that's kind of what I want?
I mean, honestly, a lot of the designers that I was looking at, I had a professor that introduced me to Draplin. I think it was like in 2010, maybe. And this is when he was like, I think just
started
really
to
getting
right.
out there.
Yeah.
Like he showed me a poster of like, how he does all those posters with like everything on it. Well, this one was like
the 50 states or something.
Yeah. I don't even think he did those then. I think it was like a lot of like, what was it? The Binding Company and like all that other stuff. Like, I think he just had like a ton of Draplin swag, and I was like, holy shit, like this is awesome. And then of course, like, they teach us about like Milton Glaser and stuff like that.
Sure.
A lot of people that I paid attention to were illustrators, like Michael Side, a lot of like skateboard based illustrators. The style is like pretty simplistic, not very like realistic stuff. Michael
So simplistic,
Side,
you mean like just more graphic?
Exactly.
Right.
I would lean towards like the graphic style. Like Michael Seibin, or it's either Seibin or Seibin, but he does a lot of like graphics for various companies. Ed Templeton, I've always like loved his like super quirky like odd graphics.
I don't think I'm familiar with these guys. That's awesome. I'll have to check these guys out.
Yeah. I mean, they're you'd probably, if you've been around skateboarding or something, you'd probably recognize their work.
Yeah.
And then of course, like Shepard Fairey and stuff, it's like, at that time, like he was huge. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of the people I was looking at that time. As far as like designers, like I would actually like look at companies that I would, be like wanting to work for or something, like, as like a junior or sophomore, and like, okay, I like what these people do.
Yeah.
So I would just like, on Twitter or whatever, social media, and like, okay, this person works here. Like, this is their work. Like, it's kind of what I have to do to, I guess, hack it.
Yeah. Right. So has your style changed dramatically since then? I mean, what was it like back then?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it was just more unrefined, I guess. I actually got like Facebook does like those, 5 years ago you posted this, and
Yeah,
there
right.
was one of those where it was like a t-shirt design that I submitted at like, what's the, what was that big like t-shirt, you submit stuff into it, and, like if they choose your design, they print it or something. Gosh, I don't know. I think they're based out of Chicago, but like, I sent that, and it was just like, it's just timid looking at it. I'm just like, oh gosh,
Right.
what was
This
I
is this is
thinking?
this is the 5-year one that you're not going to reshare, is what you're saying.
Exactly. I'm like, oh god. But yeah, I mean, it's since then it's just refined. Like my taste has come around, and I don't know.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah,
like the sort of the advent of not only Procreate, but also the growth of what Procreate has, and its community, the ones who are actually building the tools and all that kind of stuff, giving us the ability to kind of create
yeah,
create all kinds of filters and textures. I mean, obviously I'm sure it has for me too, clearly,
yeah.
but I'm sure I'm assuming that's the case for you.
Yeah, the ability to just like, use any kind of texture you want, like just.
Well, before we get into Retro Supply and all that kind of stuff, because I'm really curious a little bit more about your history. So you got out of college, you moved to Las Vegas, is that right? Did you land a job there, or?
So I actually moved to Las Vegas before college. So
Okay.
I kind of got a little bit of a later start. So like after high school, I just, I didn't really know what I wanted to do exactly. I mean, I had like CAD bad stuff, so I was like, I
You
guess
had
I'll
what?
just kind of do that. So I was doing like prerequisites and stuff, and by the time I got to like, I guess like 20, I started thinking about whether or not I wanted to, go that route or not. And my brother at the time was going into the pipe fitters union, and I was like, I took the test and for the Detroit pipe fitters, one of their locals there.
What is
And
that?
yeah, so I was almost a pipe fitter / welder. So
Okay.
that was, yeah, because I mean, like growing up in that area, I guess like, one of the things, it's a super industrial. So like,
Yeah.
if you want to, retire and all that stuff,
Yeah. Super
like,
blue collar. Yeah. Unions and
like blue collar.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, get into the union, be set for life.
Yeah,
That's the
totally.
kind of mentality up there. So I like took the test and stuff, and I like passed it. And then like the last part of like getting into the union was like, you had to like be interviewed by like this boardroom full of like roughneck, like union guys. And it was like so intimidating at the time. They're like,
This is you. This is you at 20 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I was 20 at
Wow.
this time.
I'm sure that wasn't intimidating.
Yeah. So they're like, asking me all these crazy questions. Like, I remember one of them was like, so do you have any welding experience? I was like, no, like they're basically like, so why do you want to even do this? So I was like, Jesus Christ. I
Right.
was like, I just want to get a job and not be homeless when I get older. I did like, it was just like, it was crazy, but
That's hilarious.
intimidating as hell. And then,
So,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
like before so I gave myself sort of like I guess like an ultimatum, I guess. It was like, if I didn't get into the pipe fitters union, I was going to move to Las Vegas. And so I didn't. And so I moved out to Las Vegas.
Dude,
and,
Jordan, you have got to tell me, how in the world did it go from being a pipe fitter to living in casino land? How the hell did this happen?
yeah. So like, the girl that I was dating at the time,
That's usually how it goes.
yeah, like her family, or her dad and her brother lived out there. And, yeah, this was like the height of the recession. It was like 2007, I think.
Yeah.
6 or 7. And so she was like, I want to go to culinary school. Like, I can, live with my dad and stuff out there. And then I was like, shit, like I'm not doing anything. Well, unless I got into that program for the pipe fitters. And so I did it and literally loaded up my truck with like all the possessions we thought we needed and drove out there. I think I had $800 in my bank account at that time.
Wow.
Just like,
is it going straight to the slot machines?
Yeah. I had just turned 21, I think, when I moved there.
Okay.
And so we kind of coasted on fumes. And so we stayed with her dad for a while. And so I kind of had the plan. Like I was researching like schools and stuff before I went out there. So my game plan was to go to design school there.
Mm-hmm.
So I enrolled into the Art Institute, and then basically started right away. Was
that a 4-year college or?
Yeah, I was there their program's a little bit, they go like 3/4 a year. So you're supposed to be able to do it in less, but
okay.
It's, I was in school for about 4 years.
Okay.
And then, I graduated 2012. So
you graduated in 2012?
It was a wild time to be in college in Las Vegas. It was certainly not your quintessential college experience for sure.
So you graduate in 2012, and how did you find what I'm assuming is your current job? Is that right?
I actually, when I was a junior, I got a internship at like this boutique studio. They were called, the name was called Brand.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a lot of like smaller branding projects for like, I don't know, like plastic surgeons and like spas and
sure,
architectural firms, stuff like that. So, and so I started as an intern, and then like, I think like 2 weeks later, they're like, "Oh, want to just like work here?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then, so I worked there.
What was the name of that company? What was the name of that company?
It's called Brand. It's like literally called Brand Ltd.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. They got real creative with it.
Yeah, they really did, didn't they?
Yeah. It's real straightforward. Maybe it works. I don't know. But yeah, they're great people though. It's a very small, company, about maybe like 7 people, I think total.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like me and a couple other designers. And I think I was there for I think I got the job my junior year and then stayed there for a full year after that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did that. And then I actually worked for the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce for about 6 months after that.
Really?
Yeah.
And what kind of stuff did you do with them?
A lot of like internal branding. And then they had a monthly magazine that they put out. Mm-hmm. And I did, the layout and design every month for that, like front to back. It was a lot.
Wow. But, yeah. So then what happened? What happened after that, man? I mean, so I know, so you were at Brand for, how long were you there before you moved into your next show?
Over a year. They actually ended up they had some issues with their, one of their bookkeepers or their bookkeeper. They only had one bookkeeper, but they were embezzling cash, and so they're like, we can't pay you guys anymore.
Oh no.
Sweet. And so this is your last week. I was like,
oh my God.
Great. Okay. So I think I was out of work for a month or so. And then I landed at the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce, which is it was decent, but that was so corporate feeling. They wanted me to wear almost a suit every day. And I was like, oh man, this is not what I want, but I need a job for sure.
Right.
And so I did it. And
I'm sure the cost of living isn't exactly the cheapest in the world either.
honestly, well, you'd be surprised actually. It's not that bad. It's pretty comparable to like, I mean, most places. It's not like LA. Like Las Vegas is where a lot of people who live in LA go to not pay so much,
right?
in rent, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, it's.
So, what did you learn as a designer living in Las Vegas?
Gosh, like most people think like even like when they hired me over at Red Square, I think one of the main factors is they thought I was like working on a ton of casino stuff, and like I never touched a casino job in my life.
Yeah.
Especially like in design and stuff. So I never designed for that. It was mostly all corporate identity and.
So your portfolio didn't give it away that you weren't really doing casino work?
No. They just thought it was just, he's from there. Like,
right.
But they needed people to work on like corporate ID stuff. So, I guess they liked what they saw, but, yeah, I mean, learning as a designer, they don't really, when I was there, they didn't really have a community that was super enriched in design. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of cool, like kitschy Vegas stuff that I think I would appreciate more now.
Yeah.
But then I was like, at the time I was looking for like the real designy type of stuff that I really didn't find a whole lot in Vegas. So yeah, I was like, well, I ultimately wanted to leave after I got my degree, and I was like looking around like everywhere.
Yeah. But I'm curious, in Las Vegas, was there a design community? Was there kind of an arts community, or was it really just strictly just big casinos, hotels, strip clubs, and shotgun churches?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of casinos and strip clubs. But yeah, their art and design community is sort of budding.
That's good.
Like when I left, I guess. And I would say it's a lot richer now. Like I have a lot of friends that live there, and, I think they have a lot of artists that live there now. I mean, not that they didn't before, but, I think it's, in metropolitan areas, like, I think it's sought after more, like to have like, mural artists and like more of that bespoke kind of like flavor.
Totally. Yeah.
So they're bringing that in they have been bringing that in for a while. And, yeah, at the time it wasn't super artsy, but it was certainly there for
sure. For all of just a little side note on that, for all of the people that, and I'm certainly one who's said some negative things about social media in general, but from an artist community perspective, I think social media has been an amazing outlet so that cities, towns, communities across the country, across the globe are actually allowing more artists to be expressive in their communities in ways that really was just kind of centered in, your LAs, New Yorks, and Chicagos. What I'm seeing now more, which is really exciting, is that you could be in any town, small or large, and you're going to see more and more muralists popping up, more and more chef-driven restaurants, artsy art, really artsy, kind of districts. It's in that respect, even with, technology be damned. The human spirit, the artist, is definitely becoming more and more prevalent in a lot more spots in across the country, which is a really exciting thing to see. And it should be really encouraging for any artist, any designer who's trying to get out there. there's virtually no excuse for you to just sit at home and think that you can't make it. You can get your name out there very easily if you just, basically show yourself, show up. So, I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way, but that seems to be what I'm noticing. And social media is just incredibly powerful for that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it allows like that sort of like urban flavor of like, that art style, or like you're saying, like the chefs, and like that sort of like, I guess enrichment to kind of like, it lets it bleed into like small parts of the country, like, even Mobile or.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even places smaller. Like, for example, for those who are listening that don't know, Jordan and I actually met. We didn't talk about this at the beginning. Jordan and I actually met at a creative conference called Creative South in Columbus, Georgia. Right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus, Georgia.
And it is a very, very small town. I mean, it's a really cool town. I mean, it's right next to a beautiful river. But remarkably, this creative conference is thriving, and now you're seeing all these different restaurants that are popping up, and they're just totally embracing it. It's just Exhibit A of how even the smallest of towns can be thriving with the arts, man. It's so cool.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And your thoughts on like being able to like make it or be seen as an artist, like it's, especially through like Instagram. I've gotten a ton of work from Instagram. Like you're able to reach anyone in any country. It's like, it's pretty mind blowing, but
yeah, I actually want to dig into that a little bit too, because you are currently working as a full-time designer for an agency, but you are also doing a ton of work on the side as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. I try to take on as much as I want as far as freelance and illustration and stuff. Mm-hmm. It can be exhausting at sometimes. So sometimes I have to step back and rest a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. I've always got something cooking up.
How did Instagram inform your growth as a designer in terms of maybe the development of your style, or even just the growth of your followers who are maybe seeing things that you've posted before that maybe encourage you to do more of X, Y, or Z?
I would say like originally, I was posting just to be more a part of the community, like kind of like how Dribble is. It's a great way to like find like peers and different people who do the same thing or similar things. So, I was posting stuff that just stylistically that I wanted to do that necessarily I couldn't in a more corporate atmosphere. So it's a constant feed of inspiration too, depending on like who you follow. So, I pretty much follow all other designers and illustrators. So, I mean, whether you like it or not, they are going to influence you.
Yeah.
One way or another. You see something, you see a little trick they did, and it's like, oh, I want to try that maybe. Yeah. So, you kind of do that. You put a different spin on it, and like, how does this work in my, for my own hand or something? Just a lot of consistent posting. I've been kind of slacking the past like few months, I guess. If you're posting like every day in Inktober, and like it forces you to post every single day, and like you really like can hone in on something right there. Like you'll hone a skill or two, drawing everything in and being accountable for it.
Yep.
You would surprise yourself. I know some designers or illustrators who do year-long sprints. Like my friend Nick Burrito, he's like, he would do like a illustration like every single day, and that alone, like, and he stuck with his style. Like he basically honed a certain style from that time period, or that 365 or whatever. Yep. And did it consistently and posted consistently, and he's amassed a huge following based on that. And
amazing.
And he's carved out a style for himself.
Yeah, it's kind of like going to the gym and having people watch your progress over a period of 30, 60, 90 days, and people just get inspired and they're like, man, that's like seeing it happen in real time. It can be very inspiring and get people excited to do the same. So do you find that was kind of a thing that sort of inspired you to do that? Like you just saw other people doing it?
I mean, I wasn't about to like post every single day, because that just sounds like too much pressure. But I guess, I mean, in one way or another, I basically post as much as I was doing, really. Mm-hmm. And I still try to do that. If it's postable, I have a lot of stuff that I'm like working on that, I can't really show sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I'll try to do like a side thing and here's something, or dust something off that I was working on a while ago.
Yeah.
To try to stay a little bit consistent, I was like, I don't know how the algorithm works now, but I feel like you have to like regularly post stuff or otherwise it'll be like fall off the grid or something.
Right. How important is that to you, considering you are somebody who has a full-time job? You're clearly getting enough, side gigs to have you pick and choose what you want to get involved with. At that level, how important is it to you that you quote unquote stay on the radar?
I think it's pretty important. Like, I'll post something, or I'll post a few things like during a week span, and then I'll notice like my inbox gets hit up. Like, you got to be out there, really. I mean, if you're not posting stuff regularly, there's people aren't seeing it. So, I don't think I've reached a level yet where I don't need to keep putting myself out there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm still striving to do that,
Yeah. Is the ultimate goal to eventually do this independently, or?
I think eventually, like, I don't know, like, maybe at some point, or, self-sustainability has always interests me. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely in the back of my mind. But I think a lot of it is just the freedom to, work on what you want to work. A lot of the stuff that I post or show that's like, drawings or illustration type stuff, that you'll get that in kind of in return. So
yeah,
what you put out there is what you'll kind of get in return. So
yeah,
if you're putting stuff out there that you're not stoked on, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah. It's such a fine line too, because a lot of times, we as artists tend to be, everything is so subjective, right? It's not like you're building a car and you just, you can qualify it as a success because it drives you around from point A to point B. Yeah. So when it comes to art, you sometimes can think that it's total crap, but then you get it out there and it's like, oh wow, I'm completely wrong. I'm getting a lot of nice feedback. So, so, you have to be careful to not hold on too long and realize that it is a journey, right? And be willing to even just take the chance to get it out there and be ready for feedback, and knowing that you can always go back and come back with a killer drawing, even if the other one wasn't that great, Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good method to post, for feedback, or, see if, general people are digging what you're doing. And, I mean, they'll let you know if it's not that great,
Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's a good gauge to see, if, what's, I don't know, I guess what they're liking. But a lot of times, like, I don't know, maybe they're not ready for it yet, kind of thing. So maybe it's dope, but maybe they're not ready for it. And that's something to think about too.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you do something enough that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of traction. If you do it enough, it's going to become something, it's like, that's how styles are kind of born. I feel,
Agreed.
But, or like not necessarily styles, but like, trends, I guess.
Yeah.
But
somebody tried something that nobody thought would actually work, and then it does. It's so strange how that works, man. I'm very, very fascinated by that.
I am too. And you can see it happen. Like, I'll scroll through my feed and, it's like, oh shit, look at that. That again, it's, you can kind of see it if you pay attention enough. You kind of just see it evolve, and it's super interesting.
It really is. So man, God, I have so much to ask. We'll have to do a part 2, but in these last kind of like maybe 10 minutes or so, I want to talk a little bit more about your process. When you're working on a project for, let's say, outside of the 9-to-5 gig, and you start digging into a brand project where you're definitely incorporating some of the hand drawn stuff. What's the mode in which you kind of move towards to finish one off?
So it always starts with, like, obviously, like, the brief. You kind of like research the brief, and then you research maybe like styles. You build yourself a mood board of similar styles and colors and typefaces that I might think like fits the project. Then beyond that, or after that, I typically go to sketching and, loose sketches, not even like anything tight, just to get the ideas out of what, the logo could look like, or, what elements I could use or whatnot.
Yeah, actually, a perfect example was one that I was really fascinated by, which was the designs that you did for the packaging for Boulevard Brewing's Mai Tai Fling, I think it is. Is that right? Yeah,
I worked with the guys over at Whiskey Design out of Kansas City.
Yeah,
and they're one of their, I think it's a consistent kind of client. I know Boulevard is based out of Kansas City. But yeah, they did it's called Fling is the,
Mai Tai Fling, or is it just Fling?
So Fling is like their sub brand.
Okay.
So it's like Boulevard Brewing's like Fling. So it's like cocktail, in a can, basically.
Yeah.
So, they reached out to, I think, 3 different artists to do each, flavor. And so they reach out to me to do the Mai Tai Fling.
Gotcha.
And there's a bunch of like tiki inspired, sort of like, just like tiki inspired, basically. And for those, like he actually gave me a bunch of different prompts. It's like, what if we did this, or what if we did that? What does this look like? And they wanted me to like put my lens on it, basically, and.
So they give you, did they give you concept sketches, or did they just kind of say, maybe we're kind of thinking like, a turtle with 2 heads, or how, is it that kind of thing?
Yeah, it was basically, kind of a list of things that they thought could look cool. They didn't do any like sketches or anything like that. Trying to think, like maybe they sent me like a couple things that I did in the past, maybe that they liked, or I can't remember exactly, but primarily it was just like a list of like really fun things, like, what if the keg is actually a volcano island or whatever. And I was like, okay, like a lot of them were very like visual, obviously, ideas. So I was able to easily,
that's awesome.
Do that. So it was really fun. They do.
I mean, that's great. That's just great art direction. I mean, to have somebody who's going to come up with clever ideas from the get go, that just makes your job that much easier.
Yeah. Like, I think he was the creative director over there, Matt. He had some stellar ideas and had, they have ultimately did the whole package design for it. Like how, the layout for it. But, their art direction was good.
Nice. And did they find you? Did they find you on? Did they find you on Instagram, by the way?
I believe so. I think so. Yeah.
Nice.
Kind of been like following each other for a while. But then, one day he hit my inbox and was like, "Hey, I got this for you." I was like, "Sick."
Yeah, nice. That's for the listeners out there. There's the proof right there that if you really put your best foot forward on Instagram, you will get calls for projects like these.
Yeah, because you got art directors out there who are on it just as much as you are, looking at work like you are, and if there's a project that's coming up and you kind of fit the bill, that's just a perk of it, really. So,
yeah. So tell me what happened after that?
So originally, like, I couldn't even, I didn't even know what, like, I knew it was for like a beer can basically. And I didn't know anything other than that. I just got the prompts and just know this is like for an alcoholic drink basically. And that's all I got to know. Really.
Did they give you any color cues or anything like that, or?
Actually, no. Like I basically I generally picked the colors, and I think they altered it a little bit to their needs, but for the most part, it was basically what I set.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it was like a couple months later, he sent me a JPEG of the can design. I was like, oh shit, that's awesome. It's like really fun to see actually where your work, where it ended up. So
yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it was fun.
So when you were working through the kind of ideation process, do you start with pencil and paper, or do you go straight to? I know for a lot of your work, you definitely utilize Procreate as a means for the final files and stuff like that. But do you start on pencil and paper? Or?
I still do. Yeah. I guess it's whatever is at hand, really. But like a lot of times I'll get the Procreate out and I'll sketch in Procreate.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. So I'll sketch in it, like just like a sketchbook, loose, like super loose stuff. Excuse me. But yeah, like even, I'll get it to close to final on the iPad, just depending on what it is.
Yeah.
But I'll typically end up moving it over to Illustrator because I want to, make vectors out of it, basically.
So
yeah.
At that level, is it more about like kind of live tracing it and then, or do you? Yeah.
Like
okay. Gotcha.
I'll try to get it to. So if it's got that hand-drawn feel, if it's not like the perfect shapes and stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
If it's more hand drawn, I'll try to get it as close as I can in Procreate, so that when I bring it into Illustrator, the legwork is very minimal.
Totally.
Basically. So I can trace it in Illustrator. If you got like those weird goofy points to it, I'll smooth those out.
Yep.
So basically, I'll refine it in Illustrator and, play with color and composition and stuff like that.
Nice. So at that point, you do all your sketching, and do you show kind of high level ideas to the client where they're just more in sketch form, or do you try and finalize as much as possible?
Yeah, I showed them more like sketches at first, just to see if they're feeling it. They were like pretty tight sketches, but they were definitely in rough form. And then once they were like, hell yeah, like let's go. And then I, basically went over them again in basically traced over them again, like refined my lines, and then eventually brought it into Illustrator, where I kind of like made sure they were looking like I wanted them to.
Yeah, nice. You've been I'm always openly gushing about Procreate, and
Same.
yeah, and it was such a game changer for me, and in terms of speed and well, it's just on so many different levels. And are you? I mean, what are your feelings towards? Are you at that level where you're just like, you know what? I don't care how much you love drawing on paper and pencil. Get the freaking app and talk to me in about 30 days. I mean, how do you feel about the purists as opposed to people who have accepted and fallen in love with technology, like, your classic Cintiq or Procreate?
Yeah. I'm all on board with Procreate. I don't think it's like it's capable. You're capable of like doing final artwork in it, but I think it has a little bit of ways to go.
Yeah.
I mean, not far. I mean, it's like right there.
No,
it's
like pretty close. Yeah.
I'll do almost done work on it.
Yeah, me too.
But it's a game changer. Like, like you said, like 30 days. It's so intuitive for drawing. Even if you prefer pencil or chalk or whatever you draw with, it's worth digging into for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We just we did a mural in our office, and I did most of the work in Procreate, where I designed it, and then in Procreate. And then I was able to print it out, make some transparencies and just paste it, get it to go up on the wall, with
That's amazing.
projector, and then we were able to hand paint it. It just speeds up your process so incredibly much. It's a fantastic thing. And maybe on another podcast we'll do 30 minutes of just pure gushing on Procreate and talk a little bit more about that. Totally. In fact, I want to do like a little bit of a round table with a bunch of different illustrators, and hopefully we can chime you in on that too. So,
that would be sick. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we close this up, man, I'm curious if there's anything that we should be looking out for that's coming up in terms of work that you're about to roll out, and then after that, let's talk about where people can find you.
So stuff that I've been. So I actually have it's a gallery show as well. I know you were saying you had one. In September at Jacksonville State. September 24th, I think, which I have a lot of work to do before that even happens.
How many pieces are you doing?
I don't know exactly. Probably like, I've yet to figure that out. I guess we'll see.
Like 30, just a small amount, 30, 40.
God, I would die. maybe 10 pieces.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
We'll see. I don't know.
Sweet. So everybody will have to fly in to check it out.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of work that I want to post that I can't yet, but we'll see when that's able to happen. Yeah, well, that's perfect roll-in into where people can find those posts. Where can they find you at online? Yeah, so I'm at Jordan Jameson on Instagram. And okay, before you do that, you've got to clear this up for me. Jameson, Kabalka, help me out. So Jameson is my middle name, and so when I got Instagram, I thought I'd be like, as if there's like a lot of Kabalkas out there, Like, I don't know why. I was like, I'm going to be interesting and go with my middle name. Right. But, so it's more like your classic Peter Parker Marvel superhero comic character. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, now I want to like just use my name kind of, but now I feel like the link is out there in like several different spots. And I'm like, oh, if they click on it, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have that many followers. I could just switch it up on them.
There you go. So they can find you whereabouts.
Yeah, so Jordan Jameson on Instagram. And then my website is like, I think I just have like a splash page that goes to Dribble right now.
Yeah.
Which, that's kabalka.com, my last name. And then on Dribble, I think I'm just Jordan Kabalka on there. So
awesome. Yeah, we're that sounds good, man. Dude, Jordan, it was great catching up with you, and we'll definitely do this again sometime soon. And if we don't talk before then, man, best of luck on your art show, and we'll be in touch soon. Okay.
Yeah, man, I had fun. Thanks for having me on here.
Okay, take care. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Pencil Pushers Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at the Pencil Pushers Podcast for visual representation of our guest artwork, topics discussed, and anything else that contributes to the show. Be sure to subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell lots and lots of friends. Become a leadhead. And we're out.